Hello and welcome to this webinar. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. My name is Lily Sakaro. I'm one of the reference and instruction librarians at the Midtown campus of Berkeley College. This webinar is being recorded for the use on Berkeley's website. So, today we're going to be talking about getting involved early and taking advantage of professional development opportunities as a student. As you can see here, this early bird has caught its worm, as the old saying goes. There's really no reason that students should be waiting until they're almost graduated and almost at the point where they're starting to look for jobs to get involved in their professional life. It's really in your best interest overall to be tuned into current issues in whatever career field you're exploring as a student. And that means involving yourself in continuing learning and networking events, which ultimately is going to help distinguish you from the average candidate when you're looking for a job and interviewing. People will recognize that you have sought out opportunities again beyond the classroom, and it's clear that your interest goes just beyond being a student and working on assignments. You really want to be a participant, and that's a very important perspective for any employers potentially to get. In general, professional development is not going to fall into your lap. Even in a school environment, it really requires persistence, right? So you must be proactive. You must be on the lookout all the time. And there are many ways to be on the lookout. Overall, again, don't wait till you're near graduation. Many career options can be made clear to you while you're still a student, and the earlier you understand what those options are, the better off you will be. And certainly having sought those out and explored on your own will show not only in your character, but in your potential to really move forward in the field consistently, because most professionals in their own fields have to do professional development throughout their careers. It's not just a beginning of the road kind of thing. Of course, your professors have made headway in their own fields. They're the ones teaching you about those things. They are very likely to know what's going on in current issues in their fields and in the ones that you will be seeking out. Not only that, but you're going to be surrounded by people in almost every department who not necessarily will be familiar with every single field that you could be exploring, but certainly with the process and experience that other students have had. We've been around Berkeley a long time. We've seen other students in the same positions of seeking out many opportunities. So it's worth it to build relationships with those people. And if you've ever heard the saying that it's valuable to learn what you don't want to do, then that's something to consider as well. The more you understand your options, the more you'll realize that there are some that are just not going to work for you, and maybe the things you thought you were going to like aren't so good, but there could be some things you didn't know even existed. My personal example is that in the library and information science world, where I am a participant, most people don't really know that many people have to have a graduate degree to work in libraries. But not only that, that within that degree, there are probably 30 to 50 different tracks and areas that I could name that you could go into that would lead to completely different types of careers. So this is something that I know applies to almost every career field. But of course, not every individual person is going to know what those are. So that's why exploring is so critical. Now, involvement is not really a one-shot deal. It's not just about you by yourself. It's about connecting with like-minded people. As my mother would say, you gotta find your peeps, right? These are going to be the people who you don't really need to explain yourself to. There's going to be some elements of common language and understanding with those people who are already involved and excited about your given field. And these aren't just your peeps, right? These are going to be your peers in the future, your colleagues, people you could potentially be working for. All of these are the kinds of people you'll meet when you seek out professional development. And any person individually is potentially a peer or a good resource for you. And you have to treat everybody you meet in these environments as such. So in terms of the current issues, just keeping up with some of the major problems that are going to have to be solved in your career field or your professional area. What are going to be the major issues in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years? Understanding what questions to ask can certainly help you as far as interviews are concerned. Just keeping up with news is going to be a real asset to you because you'll be able to speak to what everybody might be worried about in terms of employment or things you would be doing in the workplace. Professional organizations. These are the major groups that encompass everybody who is a big player in their career areas. So all those people who publish articles, all the people who are, doctors and researchers and professors, most people like that are going to be members of professional organizations. One cool thing that not many people realize is that these organizations love students. They love you. It's because of your enthusiasm, your dedication to really making it work as a career option for yourself. And just people getting started are really encouraged because obviously they want you to work in their field. So figuring out which organizations are really going to cater to your needs for professional development is important. Just attending any sponsored events or meetings or maybe smaller conferences, certain chapters in the New York area or New Jersey area, these are going to help you sort of narrow down those choices. There could be all sorts of presentation opportunities, and as far as student membership costs are concerned, there is a significant cost reduction. This could be from hundreds of dollars if you start as an already working professional to maybe between $20 and $60 or sometimes even free if you are a practicing student in a given field. And that's really cool because we all know that nobody needs extra costs in addition to tuition fees and such. Of the people you meet at events like this, you really want to find those people you connect with more on a personal level, people who can serve as mentors. Maybe you can find some way to communicate your personal story and background and not just in the academic context. And finally, finding other activities is pretty important, not just in your field area. A lot of people assume that everything on their resume has to be exactly what they plan to do, otherwise it doesn't really count or matter. And that is absolutely not true. You sometimes run into the contradictory issue of you find an entry-level position that seems to require having had that position somewhere else in order to even get that job. And that's just not possible. Not everybody can have direct experience all the time. So what do you do to supplement that? Well, for example, maybe you find a workshop that is generalized, maybe not in your specific field, but it's about, let's say, verbal communication versus email communication. That can translate into customer service as a whole. It doesn't necessarily have to apply directly, but you can speak to those issues and how they would apply to your field because of other knowledge that you have. You just never know where that's going to be, so you have to think outside the box and sort of figure out how you can translate certain experiences into those relevant ones that employers will be looking for. So let's get down to how we actually go about achieving these and seeking out these kinds of opportunities. I'm going to go through a couple of different things. So of course, because I am a librarian, I will first be showing you Berkeley's library resources that you can use to find job-related information, career and professional life information. Many of that sort of thing will direct you on to the professional and organizational websites, which have very specific information, continuing learning opportunities, and will tell you all about those membership and events registrations that you would need to know. We'll also talk about other online resources like digital media and things that you can find outside of the sort of academic and continuing learning sphere that may apply not necessarily to your field, but to continuing education in general. And of course, who you should seek out here at Berkeley on various opportunities you have as a student here. I'm going to step away from this presentation for just a bit. And I'm going to go to my web browser. I hope you all are able to see this. I'll try and go at a reasonable pace. So you'll notice here I am currently logged into Blackboard as myself, and everyone will be able to do this as a Berkeley student. If you have not explored our library databases before, this is a good opportunity to do that. You'll notice I have the library tab up here open. So once I'm logged in and on that tab, I have a variety of options. What you'll want to look for is this top bar here, the Research and Explore tab. This is where you'll find a lot of resources through the library. The tab we're going to look at now is the option called Databases. And once you click that, you will be into our list page. Now, I do recommend, while using these, to use the Firefox or Google Chrome browsers instead of Internet Explorer. It tends to work better. So once I click Databases, I get to our list page. Now we start here at the top by subject area and continue downward alphabetically. So if you know specifically what you're looking for, there's a couple of different ways to find it. And I'm going to show you a really excellent resource. This is something, again, you can only access fully through Berkeley. It is called Ferguson's Career Guidance Center. At the top of the databases list, you'll see a direct link there under Career Guidance Center. But you could also scroll down to the F section far below and click on Ferguson's. When I open this database up, I'll let it load. Here's what the interface looks like. There's a lot you can do on here and many paths you can explore. Obviously, if you have your career idea or occupation in mind, you are welcome to type it into the search box and see what comes up. Under this Explore Industries and Career tabs, you can search by maybe highest paying or fastest growing jobs if you're not really sure what area you're looking at yet. Or if you click on Industry Overviews and Profession Profiles, like I'm going to do right now, you get a list here that you can search for more specifically. So you have everything from agriculture to health sciences to information technology. So let's go to health sciences. Some of you may be health studies students. I'll just go to healthcare, but clearly there's a variety of options. When I click on that healthcare link, and again, I've done Explore Industries and Careers, gone to the industry overviews, and found healthcare from there. You can see that as you scroll down the page, there is a very extensive profile on the history of the career field, where it's going. So this is background. I can scroll down. You get the structure of the field, so maybe some different types of career paths that you can go and how they relate to each other. There's again, the industry outlook, where it's going to be going in the next several years. I've just continued scrolling down the page, and look how much data and information there is in, I believe, a really easy to understand way. And of course, at the very bottom, further information, and here are links to many of these professional type organizations that you could be looking at. We have here the American Medical Association, that's a really major one. American Nurses Associations. And once again, toward the top of the page, you see, as I'll scroll up for you, that on the right side, there are all these broken down, more specific job profiles, I would call them. So this one here is for dental assistants. Let's just do that as an example. I click on dental assistants, and there's, as we see, a job profile with an overview, again with that history. It tells you about the employment prospects, what the work environment's going to be like, definitely that kind of thing. And as you scroll through, once again at the bottom of those pages, you'll see the links to the various professional organizations and associations that are related to that field. So let's say I'm interested in one. I can, this one is the American Dental Assistants Association. So I can go to the website, which is linked here. It'll open in a new tab. Here we go. So I can see, you can find out all sorts of things about each of these organizations. You see they have a membership tab, and they have a page that says types of membership, which if I click on, you can scroll down and they show you all the membership costs. And here, like I was talking about before, there's a much discounted student member rate for professional development, and it'll tell you exactly how that process works, what kind of benefits you would get by being a member. Obviously, there's continuing education opportunities. Really, just exploring these websites can give you a lot. You may have free webinars or webinars if you're a member that you can watch on your own. Maybe just a news publication that you'll be able to look at. And again, this is just one organization of many. So within your field, you could find all sorts of things that would give you the opportunity to explore more, just get a sense of those basic issues and understand how people are coming together to talk about them in this way. So again, that was Ferguson's Career Guidance Center, which is a database that I found through Berkeley's Blackboard Library homepage, again, clicking on Career Guidance Center. For another similar experience that does not require a database login, you can I'm going to go to a new tab and Google Occupational Outlook Handbook. I've typed that in here. And it's usually the first thing that will come up in Google. This is just a regular website, the Occupational Outlook Handbook. And when I click this, it's through the United States Department of Labor. When I click this, it's its own website, so you don't have to be logged in or anything, but you see it has a similar setup to Ferguson's. On the side here, it breaks down different career fields into categories. So let's do a different one this time. We can look at, say, business and financial. And within that, you'll be able to see different occupations and profiles of those. So let's see. I'll pick one. There's all sorts of things here in the business and accounting fields. So I'll go to this one. I'll go to market research analysts. And you can see that each profile has its own page. You can see an overview summary. And then if you click through the tabs, what do these professionals do? What is the work environment? I love the how to become one idea. They talk about pay, job outlook, similar occupations is a really cool thing to explore because this is where you can start discovering what you may not have even known was an existing job option. And once again, under more info, this last tab that will be under every job profile, you can find those exact options for looking at the professional organizations. So for example, the Marketing Research Association. So if I click on that, it will give me a notice that I'm leaving the Occupational Outlook Handbook website. You can always return there later. And I get to a totally different website. And once again, we're exploring the professional organizations options. And usually, look at this one. This is really well laid out, I think. There's a tab talking about staying informed. So look, you have a news ticker by topic, and you think this is probably going to be pretty regularly updated. Network and Learn is another tab you have here, which gives you options for learning more about this organization's conferences, maybe some webinars that you can register for and watch on your own time. Of course, Be a Member is its own page on the top. And once again, can you see the difference here between research services or an individual membership fee and the student membership fee? That's pretty significant, and it would always be worth going to Berkeley's Career Services Department to explore maybe how you could get a waiver or some sort of financial support for memberships to these professional organizations, because these organizations really want you to get the most out of your interest in their field. So just to recap again, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, you can just Google that and find that on the web and explore the different profiles that way and get led to the websites. And then once again, feel free to ask a librarian anytime if you want to learn more about our Career Guidance Center database or any of the industry research databases that we have through the library. I'm going to go back to my slides now. If you are totally swamped, and this is a very frequent occurrence, there are many things you can do that are a bit lower of a time cost. Lots of places on the web that you can go for quick, what I like to call media breaks, right? These are training sites, these are video repositories, and other types of websites that you can explore on your own anytime you want. A lot of people do these even if they're not seeking out a professional field. So you could literally follow that practice of you learn something new every day. In this case, a site like TED Talks, right? Technology, Entertainment, and Design. These don't have to be within a specific career field, but they easily can be. So you can search within different categories of talks that are relatively short. They're usually about 20 minutes. So if you can take 20 minutes out of your day to learn something new, you can really benefit from that if you do it regularly. Similar with Khan Academy, where you can make an account and receive free training in all sorts of areas. Now, this may not even be just about how to get involved with your professional field or issues in that field, but maybe what technology you would have to be familiar with in a workplace related to that area, right? Or perhaps what types of clients or what types of people you would be working with and how to best interact with them. Similarly, Big Think is one of those idea websites where you can browse all sorts of videos that you could never know when they'll be relevant to you. They'll just come up later in your career and you'll say, hey, I remember that. Sites like Idealist, which is a job searching site for nonprofit organizations, and there are other repositories like it, but it also allows you to browse volunteer or internship opportunities and the companies that offer that kind of thing, which you may not even be looking for one, but just being aware of what the field is asking for in terms of their interns could be a real benefit to you maybe later on in your college career when you do need an internship or you are seeking out maybe a summer job or some sort of part-time opportunity. Could be a great place to look. And of course, Berkeley College we have our webinars. This is one of them, and every department helps contribute to that continuing learning for you. And we hope that you will take advantage of that as well. And feel free to give us feedback, of course, at the end on our website about what kinds of webinars you would like to see. Finally, it's really important that you use your communication skills in this case. You want to be acting like everybody you meet at Berkeley is going to give you an inside track advantage in your career pathway. And you never know when that, in fact, will be the case. Not only are there librarians like myself who can help give you research information in a given field, but get to know your professors. These are people who may be writing you recommendation letters based on the work that you do. Sorry about the phone ringing. Go ahead and meet with them after class. Go to their office hours. Ask maybe how they progressed through their career field, because it's likely that they do professional development themselves in those areas. Finally, getting involved with things on campus, right? Career services, clubs and activities. Maybe a club will bring in a guest speaker that's really helpful, or run some sort of event or program or trip that you could take advantage of that you wouldn't necessarily go to on your own. Really, this is something that I think is unique to the school environment and you can't always get or really even hear about as regularly as when you are attending classes here, right? And finally, online communities. There's not just in-person networking anymore. Of course, online forums, chat rooms, and social media communities are really going to be critical. So if you use Twitter, my guess is that there will be professionals in your field who people recommend following because they always post relevant articles, or maybe they talk about important issues, right? These are things that you can do on your own time and make sure you're reading the right blogs in your field, developing your LinkedIn profiles, developing other online forum personas, right? You want to make yourself known as someone who is interested in having discussion. Of course, while you do this, you should be careful of your identity. Of course, what you say can be traced because it is on the internet and you're representing Berkeley as a student. So you do want to make sure that you remain professional in all of those forums. And there are so many ways to seek them out these days. Use the social media that you're already involved in and just take it to that next level. So I will give my contact information. You can see my citations here for the images. Because I'm a librarian, I must cite everything. And you're more than welcome to contact me at any point at my Berkeley email address. I'm happy to continue the conversation later on or direct you to any further resources that could help you figure out where to go next in your career field exploration.